One of the most powerful drug experiences I've had in my life was the first cup of coffee after 3 months off.
Really?
It was psychedelic.
I did 500 days without caffeine, which was incredibly illuminating. It reminded me that most people are totally dependent on their coffee intake.
A very strong case can be made that caffeine contributed to the Enlightenment and the Age of Reason and the Industrial Revolution, all of which required us to think in much more focused linear terms.
Today, we're going to talk about the most consumed psychoactive substance on the planet. Banned in competitive sports, it is cheap, legal, and sold everywhere. My grandma was my first pusher and is also responsible for getting me hooked. Chances are you are too. If that is the case, grab your coffee or tea and join me on this dive into the world's most researched drug. So, let's... All right. It's been a while, guys. Hope you haven't missed me too much. So, let's start off. What is caffeine? First of all, it is a xanthine alkaloid, a nervous system stimulant, as we all know, and it is a natural compound found in plants similar to nicotine, which is a natural pesticide as well. By the way, a xanthine, all it means is it's a group of naturally occurring stimulants. And the way xanthines work and caffeine itself works is it basically blocks the adenosine receptors. Basically, adenosine is a neurotransmitter that makes you feel tired. So what caffeine does is it blocks the receptor of this neurotransmitter and its effects are extinguished. So caffeine also increases dopamine and norepinephrine, and it also increases adrenaline. So that's pretty much what caffeine does in a nutshell. Just to have a list of where caffeine can be found in nature. We've got it in coffee, as we all know, tea, chocolate, guarana seeds, yerba mate, cola nuts, and also green coffee. On screen, you can see a bit of a summarized description of each of the natural caffeine sources. Of course, there are several synthetic forms of caffeine that I cannot really pronounce, but just in case, I'll put them on screen and feel free to pause and assess in your own time. Some interesting facts about caffeine. It can help bees improve their memory. Tea has more caffeine, gram for gram, than coffee. It is just that we use more coffee in our preparations. And caffeine, as you may already know, was banned in sports. This occurred between the years 1984 and 2004. And it was basically on the Olympic Committee's banned list of substances. And the way it worked is if tested athletes' urine had more than 12 micrograms of caffeine, they were basically out of the competition. To be clear, a microgram is 1/1,000,000th of a gram, and basically 1,000 micrograms make up 1 milligram, and the 12 micrograms that was tested for in the Olympics when it was banned can be achieved, the plasma level of 12 milligrams can be achieved with 5 to 8 cups of coffee in the morning. So eventually caffeine went off the banned substance list because it seemed to be unfair that certain individuals metabolize caffeine differently. So some individuals can have 15 cups of coffee to get the same plasma level as some others would get with 5 cups, for example. Okay, over to the kinetics of caffeine. Starting off, the half-life of caffeine is 4 to 6 hours, roughly. It varies on many factors. The absorption of caffeine takes 15 to 45 minutes when it is through the digestive system, and it peaks within 30 to 90 minutes. It affects different people differently. For example, healthy adults, smokers, pregnant individuals, and people on certain meds, it's going to affect differently. I can perhaps put on screen the half-life according to the individual groups of people mentioned. There are other factors that affect the half-life of caffeine, like genetics, liver health, age, hormones, medications, whether the individual smokes or not, hydration, and diet. So the main takeaway of caffeine's kinetics are, if you drink a cup of coffee at 3 p.m., for example, 50% of it is still in your system by 9 p.m. and 25% is still in your system by midnight, which is worth considering when it comes to sleep optimization. This is not considering slower release forms of caffeine, such as guarana, which in turn extends the half-life of caffeine even further. Okay, over to dosage of caffeine. These are very rough ballpark averages, but if we were to take a cup of coffee, for example, we're looking at 100 milligrams. Tea is about 40 milligrams, a cup of tea. Energy drinks are about 150 milligrams. Pre-workouts are around 250 milligrams. Soda or soft drinks are around 40 milligrams. Dark chocolate is about 45 milligrams. And caffeine pills are around 200 milligrams. On screen, I will put the dosages for more specific sources of caffeine. So take your time to pause and have a look. Worth mentioning that caffeine can also be lethal in certain dosages. Apparently the lethal dose for caffeine, I wonder how they found this out, is 10 grams of caffeine. So you're looking at about 50 to 100 cups of coffee. I'm pretty sure I may have drank that at one point. So of course, a big issue with caffeine is how to prevent it from affecting sleep. So the first factor you should consider is a cutoff time. This is a time in the day where you kind of stop ingesting more caffeine. Clearly mine isn't now. Now the cutoff time really depends on how you metabolize caffeine, right? So my personal cutoff time currently is 2 p.m. But a general rule, according to ChatGPT, is 6 to 8 hours before bedtime is a good time to cut off caffeine. Keep in mind that many people say, I can still sleep if I have a coffee before bed or whatever. The thing is, there are different types of sleep, right? And apparently caffeine can affect slow wave sleep, so it actually can reduce it. And this is a type of sleep that is very important for brain hygiene. Another way to alleviate the negative effects of caffeine against sleep is to perhaps implement other compounds, such as L-theanine, maybe 100 to 750 milligrams per day. This is also found naturally in green tea, by the way. Can incorporate magnesium, glycine, and also melatonin. Another tip worth considering when you want to perhaps not rely too much on caffeine is to incorporate complementary activities, such as cold showers in the morning. That will automatically increase adrenaline, and perhaps taking a 10 to 25 minute walk every morning, ideally with your eyes exposed to sunlight, no sunglasses, whatever. This can further anchor in your circadian rhythm. It can allow you to wake up better in the morning without relying that much on caffeine. Okay, over to the health benefits of caffeine. So let's start off with the cognitive health benefits. So first of all, caffeine is one of the world's most studied psychoactive compounds, and its cognitive benefits are very well demonstrated. However, worth noting that they are dose dependent. So let's go through the cognitive benefits of caffeine. It increases alertness and reduces fatigue, improves attention, focus, and concentration, enhances reaction time and processing speed, boosts short-term memory and working memory, especially when one is tired, elevates mood and motivation via increasing dopamine and norepinephrine. This in turn reduces perceived effort and mental fatigue, especially during monotonous tasks. It enhances learning and memory consolidation, supports mental endurance, especially during prolonged cognitive work, can protect against age-related cognitive decline, and provides neuroprotective effects against brain-related diseases. So on the topic of brain-related diseases, let's take a bit of a dive into what the evidence shows. So for Alzheimer's disease, apparently this has the strongest evidence when it comes to linking caffeine with reducing Alzheimer's disease. So there are multiple large cohort studies. So a cohort study is basically where you have two sets of individuals, a set which is the placebo, let's say, and the other set is being monitored under the effects of caffeine over a period of time. And what we see here in the caffeine group is a 30 to 65% reduction in effects of Alzheimer's. One of the pathways on how this works is due to it blocking adenosine, which can modulate neuroinflammation. It also has been shown to reduce plaque buildup in animal studies and has been shown to enhance neuronal energy metabolism as well. There is also extremely compelling science showing the reduction of Parkinson's disease with caffeine consumption. The gist is that it shows a 60% reduction in Parkinson's related illness as a result of caffeine consumption. And the mechanism for this is, aside from it blocking adenosine, caffeine also increases dopaminergic effects in the brain. It has also been shown to improve motor symptoms in Parkinson's patients. And when it comes to caffeine improving general cognitive decline, such as dementia, basically the science is also there, where it's shown to slow age-related cognitive decline and increase executive function. And these effects were proven to be the strongest in moderate consumers that were consuming 200 to 400 milligrams of caffeine per day. The last cognitive benefit of caffeine is that it can decrease the effects of depression and suicide-related illness. So meta-analyses show that it significantly lowered rates of depression and suicidal behavior with moderate caffeine use. This is probably due to it enhancing the dopaminergic signaling, like we previously mentioned, and also the serotonin signaling. So one Harvard study showed that moderate coffee drinkers have a 45% chance of less depression/suicidal risk. Okay, on to the physical benefits of caffeine. So starting off with physical performance and exercise. So caffeine has been proven to be an ergogenic aid, so it enhances strength, endurance, and power output by about 3 to 12%. It improves reaction time, focus, and fatigue during resistance training, mobilizes fat stores for fuel. It also spares muscle glycogen, lowers perceived exertion, making workouts basically feel easier. It enhances recovery and lowers DOMS, or delayed muscle onset soreness, and improves neuromuscular activation and motor unit recruitment. It also improves heart and metabolic health. It improves cardiovascular function and blood vessel flexibility. It is linked to a lower risk of heart disease and stroke, reduces oxidative stress and inflammation. This is mostly via the polyphenols, which come in natural forms of caffeine, such as coffee. It has been associated with a lower resting heart rate and better blood pressure regulation. It improves insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism and reduces the risk of type 2 diabetes by about 30 to 40%. So it can improve body composition and fat loss. So first of all, it does this by increasing thermogenesis, which is the body's heat production, increases lipolysis, which is fat breakdown, raises metabolic rate by roughly 3 to 11%, helps preserve lean muscle mass during caloric restriction, improves energy availability and metabolic flexibility. When it comes to liver and digestive health, it lowers the risk of liver fibrosis and cirrhosis, protects against non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, reduces the risk of liver cancer, decreases liver enzymes such as ALT and AST, stimulates bile flow and digestion. When it comes to kidney and gallbladder health, it lowers the risk of kidney stones due to increased urine flow and calcium excretion, and reduces gallstone formation through enhanced bile flow and fat metabolism. When it comes to inflammation, longevity, and cellular health, many of the natural caffeine sources come with antioxidants and also anti-inflammatory polyphenols, which results in lower systemic inflammation, protects DNA cells from oxidative damage. There has been a correlation with lower all-cause mortality in large studies, and it can support longevity and improved metabolic and vascular function. When it comes to respiratory and pain modulation, it can act as a mild bronchodilator, which can ease asthma symptoms basically, and it can enhance pain relief when combined with analgesics, which are common in migraine meds, for example. All right, so is caffeine just a wonder drug, or does it have side effects or downsides to it as well? So let's start with the nervous system downsides. It can increase anxiety and jitters on a dose-dependent manner, which varies from individual to individual. It can induce insomnia or poor sleep quality, restlessness, headaches, especially when withdrawing from caffeine, dependence, and it seems it can also have reduced neuroplasticity. So adenosine can have a role in learning and memory consolidation, and obviously high amounts of caffeine block out adenosine, and this can in turn potentially reduce learning and memory consolidation, as opposed to what we said before. So everything is sort of dose dependent, right? From a cardiovascular side effect standpoint, it can increase blood pressure temporarily, palpitations in some individuals, arrhythmias, which are rare, and vasoconstriction, which is the narrowing of blood vessels, which can be beneficial in individuals suffering with migraines, but may reduce extremity blood flow. From a hormonal and stress response downside, it can elevate cortisol and adrenaline, reduce insulin sensitivity in the short term, and blunt growth hormone and melatonin release, especially if taken late in the day. From a digestion and nutrient absorption point of view, it can increase acid reflux, cause GI upset or diarrhea. It can reduce nutrient absorption and can cause mild dehydration. From a mood and mental state, can cause irritability and agitation, dependence on caffeine to maintain a baseline mood, let's say. It can amplify anxiety. I'm sure many of us have been there, right? And it can impair emotional regulation, so you can have the shorter fuse, if you will. Of course, it can affect sleep and recovery. It does this through a shorter sleep time, reduce slow wave or deep sleep, and can delay our circadian rhythms. From a performance and recovery downside, it can impose an overtraining risk, CNS fatigue, and slower post-workout recovery if it is taken too late and it interferes in sleep. So, how can we avoid these downsides from a dosage point of view? The optimal dose would be about 200 to 400 milligrams per day. Pushing the dosage is around 400 to 600 milligrams per day, and really risking the dosage is anything above 600 milligrams per day. So just to summarize this downside of caffeine section is that caffeine is beneficial, it seems, to most users, as long as the timing is controlled along with the dosage. Okay, so to conclude, I'm going to go a bit into my personal experience with caffeine. Growing up, I was, I guess, pretty early on introduced to caffeine as a young adult, if you will. And I got to the point where I thought I was ingesting way too much caffeine. So I eventually questioned how healthy this could be. However, I came across this YouTuber that specifically spoke about how caffeine can hijack your dopamine system, meaning it kind of gives you a reward when you drink it, and that can take away from you generating your own dopamine through your own sort of goal achievement. So this kind of intrigued me, and I said, let me try and stop caffeine. So what I did was I phased it out. So I kept on reducing the amount of coffee I was drinking, and then I reduced the dosage in each coffee, and then eventually I cut it out completely. And after a while, like, it was expected that I'm going to have some sort of withdrawals, right? So after a withdrawal period, I can't remember how long that was, let's say 2 weeks or so, after cutting it out completely, what I did notice was my energy levels were much more stable. Also, I noticed quite a drastic reduction in anxiety. And I kept caffeine out of my life, if you will, for a good amount of time, for about 3 years or so. Eventually, I came across the science around how caffeine can help. One, I mean, I knew this, that it blunts appetite, but more so that it can increase lipolysis, like fat burning. So I said, let me reintroduce caffeine. And this time, being I was off it for so long, I was able to be more kind of strict with how I reintroduce it. And that's what I did basically. So I now have caffeine cut off at 2 p.m., like I previously mentioned. I allow myself to drink as much caffeine as I want before 2 p.m., but it is important that I stop consuming caffeine at 2 p.m. And I think it helps with my focus. I'm still not fully sold on which is better, caffeine or no caffeine, from a productivity standpoint, let's say. but I feel it definitely helps me with my fat metabolism, let's say. It also perhaps helps me with my well-being or state of well-being. So for now, I intend to continue utilizing caffeine, but I'm not guaranteeing that I will do so forever. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope it wasn't, the topic of caffeine is not the most groundbreaking topic, but it was something I just wanted to cover because I know a lot of people utilize caffeine, and I kind of wanted to put all the sort of knowledge in one spot that I feel is useful and that I know about. I'm sure there's a lot of knowledge that I do not know about caffeine. And I'm sure there's a lot of science that would come out in the future. But let me know, as always, your own experience with caffeine. What do you think? What are your protocols? Let's create a conversation below. And also let me know of any other potential topics or compounds you wish me to kind of do a video on. So yeah, I look forward to hearing from you in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And thanks for watching. And I'll see you